Dickel's out, everybody. So I made a video a couple weeks ago of the new George Dickel Bottled and Bond, and if you saw the video, you know I didn't give it the best review. So a lot of people thought that, you know what, Clifton hates George Dickel. And I wanted to prove that that wasn't true by showing you what I think is the best rye for your money. And that is George Dickel Rye. So rye is kind of like the little brother to bourbon. Rye whiskey was basically the original American spirit, but bourbon caught on in popularity, and rye never really took off. It's still used a lot in cocktails, but most people don't go to a bar and order, a pour of rye. But lately I've been getting into true rye whiskey, and honestly, from all the ones that I've tried, for the money, George Dickel Rye is about $15 to $17 near me. It might be a little bit more near you. But this was the best bang for my buck. Bullet Rye is like the most well-known budget rye. But the funny thing is, this is basically Bullet Rye. So this is about 5 years old, and Bullet Rye is about 4 to 7 years old. But they actually both come from the same distillery. They both come from MGP. So this isn't Dickel Juice. George Dickel's Tennessee whiskey is their own stuff. But when it comes to the rye whiskey, they actually source this, which I think is a good thing, because MGP Rye is the same stuff that's in Bullet Rye, James E. Pepper Rye, same stuff in Whistle Pig, lots of brands that you've heard of, Redemption Rye. So their rye mash bill goes out to all these different distilleries to release as their rye product. And fortunately for us, this is the most affordable, at least in my area. Bullet Rye may be cheaper, but I got this for 15 bucks. It's 90 proof, and the only thing that makes it different than Bullet Rye is the same juice, but they do charcoal filter it like they do with their Tennessee whiskey at Dickel. But that's the only thing, and that really doesn't affect the flavor. It maybe brings down a little bit of the spiciness, which again is a good thing, but it really doesn't alter the flavor as much to make me think that this is a George Dickel product. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a full, thorough review. I mentioned this whiskey a lot, but I really wanted to sit down with it and take some time to kind of pick it apart and talk about why I like it so much. So the color's pretty light. Again, this is about 5 years old. It's also 90 proof, so it's not like, some of the full, cast strength ryes that I've been drinking lately. But on the nose, it's definitely a rye. So this is actually a 95% rye mash bill. They use 5% malted barley just to kind of help with the distilling process. But it's 95% rye. So I always get a minty, grassy, kind of like a hay, like a barn note. And that's what I like about it. To me, this is the perfect cowboy whiskey. If I'm going to play Red Dead Redemption, this is what I pour myself, because this is likely similar to what they were drinking in the Old West. Most whiskey was rye back in those days. So I think this is the perfect drink to have if you want a true, no frills. It's not going to be super fancy. The finish isn't going to be super long, but you want something that tastes good. And also works great in cocktails. This is my go-to for Manhattans. So the palate is pretty similar to the nose. It's still that, strong rye flavor. It's slightly spicy, but I think it might be mellowed out, like I said, by the charcoal process. You do get a lot more of the vanilla and the oak on the taste, and not just the straight up mint note that I always pull out of a rye. And the finish is decently long. I can get a lot of I would say almost like a I can taste the grain a lot. It's almost like a sweet oatmeal or cereal. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like a sweet grainy note. None of the sweet corn that you would normally get on a bourbon. But it's really nice, and the finish, even though it's not super long, it's a really nice flavor to finish out a $15 to $20 whiskey. It's definitely drying on the tongue. It doesn't really give you an oily mouthfeel that a lot of whiskeys do. It dries you out, and I think maybe this whiskey could stand up to ice, putting an ice cube in it if you want something a little bit easier to drink, especially if you're new to rye. If you've never had rye and you're not that experienced with high rye bourbon, rye can punch you in the face with their spiciness. So I think this would stand up well over ice. Now, I prefer to drink it neat, but I also prefer it in cocktails. So however you want to drink it, drink it. So I think I'm just going to overall give this a really good recommendation. If you see it on the shelf, I know a lot of people pick up Bullet Rye, but if you see Dickel Rye on the shelf for the same price or cheaper, give it a try at least once. You may be surprised that it's not what you expect from a George Dickel product. So I just want to make this quick video and let you guys know that I don't hate George Dickel. They're putting out some good products. This is my favorite, even though, it is sourced. They still put their name on it, and for good reason. This is a really good rye, and it's under 20 bucks. So There's not much more else to say about it other than if you see a bottle and you are curious about rye or you like rye, pick it up, give it a try. I think you might be surprised. So cheers, and I'll see you guys next video. Bye.